My wife wants a divorce because I live an entirely different reality with my first love in my dreams. Original post. I, M31, have been with my wife, F28, for 3 years. We had a short engagement, married quickly, and had a perfectly ordinary existence. I love her, she loves me. We do taxes, housework, watch movies. All the normal things. No physical cheating on either side as far as I know. But here's the thing. I am a lucid dreamer, which means I can, to an extent, control my dreams, which is something I find cool as it allows me to go on adventures while asleep. It also makes scary dreams not so bad because I can just wake myself out of them. Over the last year or so I've been having a recurring dream about my ex, my first love, F29. Truth be told, I never got over her. We were together for 5 years from 15-17 to 2022. We broke up after I graduated from college because she didn't want to move from New York to South Carolina with me, which is where the biggest industry for my field is. I was crushed but moved on, and we've spoken sporadically over the years, although we never crossed any lines. I will admit that I've kept up with her own social media a bit, but nothing stalkerish. Well, a year ago she announced she was getting married and I experienced a resurgence of feelings for her, although I never acted on them or told her. That same night, I dreamed about her for the first time in years. In the dream she showed up at my door and asked me if I wanted to get coffee. I said yes, of course. The dream, which was not a lucid dream, ended there. It felt so real, I couldn't shake the feeling once I woke up. It felt like we were actually reconnecting. Since then I've dreamed about her several times a week and I've practiced becoming lucid, so I've been able to control the outcome more times than not. We've lived a whole life together over the past year. Everything from dates to a trip to Paris together, which we visited while in college. We even rewalked the same paths we did in real life. It got to the point I was looking forward to going to sleep to be with her. Fast forward to today, my wife told me she felt distant from me. And I started to feel guilty because I thought what I was doing was harmless, but she's obviously noticed a change in me. So I confessed. About all of it. At first she said that I was joking, but when she realized I was serious, she accused me of cheating on her and told her mom and sisters, who are calling me a cheating weirdo. She even threatened to tell my ex so she'll know what a fucking loser I am. Now I get that it's not anything a woman would want to hear, but it's not like I physically cheated. I don't want to lose my wife, but I don't think she can forgive me for this. TLDR, I live an entirely separate life with my ex in my dreams, and now my wife wants to divorce me. But I really love her and don't want to lose her. Do we have a chance? Relevant comments. Sulangelic. Yeah, no, I think this might be a lost cause. I would certainly consider this cheating, and I think that it does indeed warrant a divorce. You clearly don't really love her, at least, not as much as you love your ex. Oh, I do love my wife, which is why I married her. I just also have feelings for my ex, which I should have been honest about before we got married. I didn't mean for this to happen, but once it did I wasn't able to stop it. Living that life with my ex while sleeping felt like getting to experience what I missed out on in young adulthood. With that said, my wife left overnight for a hotel and I don't know if she's coming back. I feel awful for hurting her. Elzabot, I'm asking this genuinely, not trying to be snarky at all. What did you think your wife's reaction was going to be? Did you expect what happened, or did you think she would be more accepting? I knew she would be upset, but I felt I owed her an explanation once she communicated that Do felt distant. I didn't want to gaslight her perception. I just hadn't known that she even noticed a difference in me. I just didn't think she would leave. She's turned off her location. I have no idea where she is or if she's all right, and her family won't speak to me now. I do love her and would like for our marriage not to end, but that seems inevitable now as I process this. Update. 2 days ago, I posted about the fallout that occurred after I, 31, admitted to my wife, 28, that I've been lucid dreaming about my ex and first love, 29, over the past year. After a major blow-up, where my wife called me every name in the book, and got her family involved, which I understand completely, so please don't take this wrong, my wife left. I didn't know her whereabouts for over 24 hours. Early this morning about 3 a.m., she came home and told me she wanted to file for divorce. She didn't want to have to compete with a phantom, and deserved better than a shitbag like me. But she doesn't want to move out or start the process because it's a pandemic and she doesn't want to live on one income. We make roughly the same amount of money. Me $90,000 a year after taxes, and her $85,000. I tried to apologize to her for all the hurt I caused by making her feel like she wasn't enough, to assure her that I do love her even though I still love my ex, and explain to her that I've never physically cheated or had any inappropriate conversation with my ex. But she won't budge. She doesn't want me anymore. I can't blame her. I was selfish and I shouldn't have carried on what I now accept to be a one-sided emotional affair. So I agreed to stay together, for financial purposes, for 2 years, or until the pandemic is over, whichever comes first. But she kicked me out of our bedroom and basically claimed the second floor for herself. There's so much tension in the house right now, so I left as soon as the sun came up and went to a coffee shop to do some work. While there, I received a message on IG from my ex that my ex-wife sent her a long message from her own account telling her about everything that I told her. I froze because I hadn't spoken to her in a long time. But she saw that I had read the message and followed up an hour later, telling me she needed to know the truth. So, again, I confessed, expecting to be berated and called a loser again. Because I had nothing else to lose. But she didn't think that my dreams about her were weird or creepy. She thought it was sweet that I still loved her, especially with her knowing that I'd never tried to have inappropriate conversations or force my way into her life. I'm aware that her not condemning my actions doesn't make them right or take away from the hurt I caused my wife, but knowing she didn't think negatively of me made me feel better. We messaged back and forth for a couple of hours, talking about our relationship and how it ended and the choices we made. In that, I learned that she and her fiancé called off their engagement a few months ago. I also told her my wife was going to divorce me because of the revelation. She expressed her condolences and that was the end of the conversation. I'm home now and I can't help but wonder if this is the universe's way of putting my ex and I back on the path to reconciliation. Hate me if you want, but I made a mistake and I hurt my wife and my marriage is over now. Or going to be. But knowing that the person I ruined my marriage over doesn't think I'm the scum of the earth is worth its weight in gold. I don't know what will happen now. But I can't imagine a friendship with my ex won't blossom from this, at the very least. I know this won't make my wife happy since she contacted my ex to further shame me, but I may just not tell her. We are, after all, divorcing. I hope the next few months and years can result in healing for both my wife and myself, and that we'll both live happy, fulfilled lives. TLDR, I live an entirely separate life with my ex in my dreams and now my wife wants to divorce me. Now my ex and I have reconnected. Relevant comments, deleted. I hope you don't take it out on her when you realize that your old flame isn't the person she was in your dreams. Because that was you. You were in love with another version of you. She'll be someone else entirely. Oh, but I'm also a different person. And I wasn't in love with myself. The love for her influenced the dreams. Deleted. When I say she'll be someone else entirely, I don't mean that your ex will have changed since you last knew her. I mean that your ex, in actual, real life, will be someone other than the person you spent so much time with in your dreams. That person in your dreams was not your ex in any meaningful way. She was an amalgamation of your memories of her, patched together using new material you created out of whole cloth to please yourself. She won't ever be able to live up to the fantasy you constructed, because the fantasy woman was you. The things she did and said were things you invented, just like every character an author writes is a version of themselves. You've invested countless hours and serious emotion into a character you created, who is really only loosely based on your ex. Since a real woman can't read your mind like a dream character can, and because a real woman doesn't exist only to make you happy, she will not, in real life, be the same person from your dreams. That may be disappointing to you when you realize it, so try not to take it out on the girl. OP fair. But I'm not expecting her to be. The dream could never compare to the warmth and love she radiates in real life. It was a coping mechanism. Real life will be better. I love Sharks 101. You sound absolutely obsessed with this woman, and to be honest it's quite disturbing. I imagine much of who she is has changed over the years. What if she's not the person you remembered? She will never compare to the fantasy, and honestly your obsession over her perfection is rather frightening. I punished my son for a cruel prank on an autistic girl, straining our relationship. Now, he lives with my ex-husband, who is suing me for child support. I, F48, have a son Jack, M19, and a daughter Alyssa, F18, and am married to Tom, M50. Tom is Alyssa's father, but Jack's father is my ex-husband Dan, M48. Dan and I had a pretty ugly custody fight and he lives in NY while we live in TX. Over the years Dan has unsuccessfully tried to get Jack to move in with him. It wasn't easy to fight him off since he is a very successful lawyer. Jack is a pretty popular kid in school. His friends on the wrestling team came up with a prank for him to ask a heavily autistic girl who had a crush on him to the prom as a joke and for him to show up wearing a gorilla suit. Jack originally said no, but the wrestling team actually raised a fund which got to be somewhat north of $800 for him to do it and they paid for the gorilla suit. Jack agreed. If it matters, this is very out of character for him. After the prom, I was looking around on Instagram and saw pictures of him in the gorilla suit and was surprised that he didn't take his girlfriend Jess. After reading the comments, I learned what happened. To say I was furious doesn't even do it justice. I woke Jack up as soon as I saw it and screamed at him until my lungs give out. Then when Tom heard what was going on, he joined in. Tom and Jack have never gotten along. I can't prove it, but I suspect Jack's father Dan has a hand in that. Jack told Tom, "Fuck off, I'm talking to my mother." So we took away all of Jack's electronics, his phone, and we had paid for a car for his graduation present. Because of his prank and disrespect to Tom, we instead gave it to Alyssa. We also forced him to give us the $800 plus, and we gave it to his date and made him write a letter of apology. He was also grounded for a month and we canceled his 18th birthday party. When Jack's birthday cake, there was a knock at the door. It was Dan and he had suitcases. Tom said, "What is this? The custody agreement says you don't get him on this birthday." Dan just looked past Tom and said, "Hey kid, I'm here for the jailbreak." He then pointed at a Mustang and said, "Hope you like Fords. You can practice driving your new car on a road trip back to NY. Let's take a detour to NOLA." The two of them were laughing, high-fiving and backslapping, and they just ignored us as we tried to intervene. The only time Dan acknowledged me was to look me in the eye and say as cold as ice, "Checkmate." And for Jack to yell as they were driving off, "Fuck off, Tom." Since then, Jack has gone totally no contact with me. He talks a little bit to Alyssa, and from the little he does tell her, he's doing well, and Dan is giving him the royal treatment, bringing him to steakhouses, Yankees games, and just giving him outright cash. It has been almost a year and I'm going crazy thinking I've lost my son. So aita. Edit. I see there is a little confusion here about whether Alyssa is my bio daughter or stepdaughter. She is my stepdaughter. We really have a mother-daughter relationship to the point where it doesn't even occur to me to call her my step. At the risk of understatement, Jack never warmed to Tom the same way. Note from me. Edit. People have pointed out I should have provided more context regarding OOP's comment section. I didn't originally think this was necessary, but it's clearly been told to me that was wrong. I can't remake this thread, but I can add what I feel are relevant comments. On thought process behind the punishment, he never really got into that much trouble and is largely a good kid. He'd sometimes get into fights, but that all cleared up a few years ago. We'd usually just ground him and make him do extra chores, and that was enough. But it didn't come up a whole lot. Recently, it was maybe grounding him for a weekend here or there for a badly blowing curfew, be home at 11 and he rolls in at 12:45. I can't say I had a fully formed plan on what the discipline would be for the prank alone since it all kind of happened at once, but to me at least, the big thing was the prank, and telling Tom to fuck off definitely mattered but was small potatoes compared to that. But less so to Tom, for obvious reasons. On Dan, OOP's ex-husband, and his motivation. There is some truth here. I wasn't very kind to Dan when the marriage broke down and could have been more equitable with custody matters in the divorce, which created a lot of bad blood from Dan's side. As much as I'd like to agree that I just have to wait for Dan to get sick of throwing money at Jack, I can't deny that Dan actually does pretty well by Jack, and also that he likely isn't going to be running short on money anytime soon. I spent every day with Dan for so many years and know that man very well. He is an extremely calculating man. His exact thought process was that he saw the perfect opportunity to take his son back after years of feeling slighted through the divorce process and then hit with everything he had. It worked. Dan always plays the long game, just like I'm sure he's going to play the long game to keep things the way they are. More on Dan. As much as I'd like to demonize Dan, and there are a lot of things I can really say about him, he does truly love Jack and has really wanted custody for a long time. If it was simple gamesmanship, I think he wouldn't have been so brutal about it. He truly feels I stole his son. On the extent of the punishment and Jack's relationship with Tom, stepfather. The story with Tom was that my son just never respected him as any kind of authority figure. Even as a young child, if Tom would tell him to do something, he'd tell Tom that he was just a rude guest in his house. I can't prove it, but I have to think Dan had a hand in it. How else would Jack know that it was my money from the divorce that bought the house and that Tom was broke? Also funny you mention about my son calling Dan with his side of the story. I have no idea how he did that. I had his phone locked away for 2 weeks when that happened. I suspect that his GF Jess somehow had a hand in it, even though he was barred from seeing Jess. Part of the reason I think that is this arrangement works out so well for her. She is going to NYU for college, and somehow Dan pulled some stunt to get Jack into Temple in Philly, so they take turns spending weekends with each other in either NY or Philly. Dan's Instagram post from last week was the three of them having dinner together at Peter Luger's. On money troubles and child support issues, I just feel so stupid. I know Dan. He has been waiting years for an opportunity like this, and I handed him the perfect storm. I am not proud of it, but I did not treat Dan very well towards the end of the marriage. To be clear, I never cheated on him though. But he has hated me since then. Also, since he doesn't live with me anymore, child support is terminated. We divorced in New York where child support goes to 21. I don't know how I'm going to make next month's mortgage. Dan is a very high earner, so it was a big check. He can actually go after me now for child support, and my lawyer tells me he has already filed the paperwork for that. More on child support. Tom is on disability. I knew I'd have a problem in 3 years when Jack aged out of child support, but I was hoping Tom would be back to work by then. Unfortunately, I am very familiar with the way child support works. You have a number for household income which gets negotiated after it gets to a certain point because the law says you stop counting dollar for dollar above a threshold. Then after that total is arrived, you split by relative income. I do pretty well, but not like Dan. I used to do better before COVID. At the time of the divorce, I won a very high household income split. It was good for me back then since he had to pay me. Now I have to pay Dan my portion of that very high number. So I get the double whammy of losing the checks I was getting, and now I have to write big checks his way. On Tom and Jack's difficult relationship. I tried to introduce Tom slowly and things started out okay. They were never warm, but it was peaceful. Things started getting rougher when Tom moved in. He had an accident at work and got behind on bills. It was a little sooner than we would have liked, but Jack had known him for a year at that point. It started with little things, like Tom telling Jack to clean his room, or put away his plates or mow the lawn. Jack just wouldn't do it. I'd noticed that every time Dan flew down to spend a weekend with Jack, it got a bit worse. I remember a few years ago overhearing Jack on the phone call Tom my pet loser. A phrase I know Dan has used about others before. When Jack was 16, there was one time that Tom's back was hurting and he told Jack to warm him up with a plate of leftovers, and Jack was playing a game and told him to get it himself. Tom unplugged his Xbox and then Jack said, "This fucking guy, he stays here for free, eats free food, and now even thinks he has a butler. This isn't a fucking hotel, Tom, you can't afford one." Then another time when Tom told him to mow the lawn and Jack said, "Don't tell me to mow the lawn at my own house, you mow the lawn and make me a sandwich when you're done." Jack isn't like this with anyone else. He's usually very kind, quick-witted and gracious. The thing that freaks me out is that he is almost exactly like his father. If he likes you, he'll be as debonair and smooth as can be. But if he doesn't, he really doesn't. And he truly hates Tom. More on their relationship. The end of the marriage wasn't pretty. I have to take responsibility for that, and the divorce was very contentious. Following that, there was a lot of bad blood, but it definitely got worse once Tom entered the picture. Tom once made a Facebook joke about how he wishes they would bring back paddling in schools. To say Dan went nuts does not cover it. He literally got on a plane immediately from New York, busted into my house and started making all kinds of accusations and threats against Tom. Tom had to literally lock himself in the bathroom and escape out the window because we all thought Dan was going to do something crazy. Following that, I had to spend the next 2 years in litigation proving that Tom never has and never will lay a hand on Jack. Jack has also been rubbing it in Tom's face that has his father's permission to defend himself against Tom if he ever wants to get old-fashioned with him. Jack is a 6'2" wrestling champion and MMA hobbyist. Tom is a 50-year-old man with a bad back half his size, and they are both keenly aware of it. If Tom ever laid a hand on Jack, I'd see to it that he'd be in jail. But I suspect his first stop from any such encounter would be the trauma ward. Yet more on their relationship. There is a little culture clash between Jack and Tom. Tom is an old-fashioned Texas man where he believes kids should do what they're told. Jack grew up in Manhattan. Believe me, Tom has way dialed things down from what he'd normally do, but he does believe that kids should listen to adults and help out around the house. He realizes that there is a lot of tension and that his usual approach isn't going to work, and I have even told him that if he tries it, I won't be able to maintain the marriage if he can't find a way to make a peaceable home with my son. After I told him that, he mostly just tried to step out of any kind of parental role, but sometimes, he'd still tell Jack to do something and Jack would react very badly. Jack acknowledging his wrongdoing, but still feeling the punishment was way too harsh. Thanks. He has blocked my number. Alyssa does still talk with him a bit since they had a cordial enough relationship. She even offered to give him the car back to make peace. He told her to keep it since he has a better car now and told her that he doesn't have any bad blood against her. For a while he was telling her that he'd never forgive me. He appreciates that he did wrong, but that I took it way too far by taking the car away and because I wouldn't let him see his GF for a month. The last time Alyssa brought it up, there was some movement on that. He said maybe sometime in the distant future, but not for years. So Alyssa is acting as a bit of a back channel. However, she's still so young and I don't like asking her to be in the middle of it, which must be hard because it really pains her how she sees Jack as a big brother and how bad Jack's relationship is with her father. OOP on apologies and potentially fixing this. I don't know if I agree with all of this, but for what it is worth, I have tried offering apologies. He has blocked my phone, but I sent him emails where I apologized for giving his car to Alyssa, for screaming at him, for trying to force a relationship with Tom on him, and for taking the money. He has never responded. You do have a good suggestion though, apologizing to Dan. Dan hates me. To take some accountability, the reason for the divorce is I didn't treat Dan very well during the marriage. He resented the custody schedule. He thought the child support was far beyond what was needed to support Jack, and he made no bones about the fact he considered me to have stolen his money and his son. But with all that said, the worst he can do is hang up on me. Update: I was denied an official update, but a few of you cared enough about all of this to ask me for updates periodically, so here it is. On the advice of some of the posters, I reached out to Dan to see if he'd be willing to consider brokering peace between me and Jack. About a week later I got a response telling me to meet him and Jack at a cafe in Manhattan. He arranged a 6 a.m. flight and put me in a dodgy hotel in probably the most dangerous neighborhood in NYC. I arrived and saw Dan, Jack's GF Jess, and his friend from a past firm, Jonathan. I noticed Jess had an engagement ring on her finger. Jonathan said Jack has a claim against me for stealing the $840, and until that is resolved, I am not to contact him, but to only contact Jonathan. I told Jonathan that's the money his friends paid him for the prank and that I gave to the girl. Jonathan said he was aware of the circumstances, but nonetheless it wasn't my money and under the law it was a theft and Jack has a legal claim against me. I said I don't care if it was against the law, Jack had no right to that money and they could sue me if they wanted. Jack said, "You locked me up in my room like a prisoner for a month, took the car bought for me with Dad's child support money, took the money and berated me for hours on end. Unless you're going to give me the car, this is the only thing you can undo. You said you wished we could have handled it better, so here is your chance. Or was that just bullshit lip service?" I told him I was sorry, but I can't do it. Jonathan then gave me a cease and desist letter telling me to not contact Jack and to address all communication to Jonathan. Then Jack and Jess left and I asked Dan if he could talk for a minute. I asked him if he brought me there to humiliate me, and he said actually no, he didn't. He brought me so I could humiliate myself. He'd actually worked very hard to get Jack to the point where he'd be open to talking to me again if I were willing to back down just a little. But since he knew that if I had to choose between my indignation and my own son, that I'd choose my indignation every time, just like I did in our marriage. I asked him why he'd put us all through that. He said it was because a part of him wondered if I'd ever learn to pick love over anger. He bet his future that I wouldn't when he divorced me. So he had to see for himself how it actually turned out after all these years later. I asked him if Jack was just a pawn in his game. He said no, if I actually would have picked Jack he'd be with me now and there would have been nothing anyone could have done to stop it. But instead, my indignation over a stranger was more important to me than learning to move on with my own son. I asked him what about the girl. He then said, "I hope she'll be a wonderful daughter to you since you lost a son for her." I told her I don't know the girl. So then he said sounds like a bad trade, and left. Also, I'm apparently not invited to Jack's wedding. At this point I posted thanks for posting the update. I'm a little confused why you weren't willing to pay the money. These are some quotes from comments you said earlier. If you lose your only child, nothing else really matters. I didn't understand that before. Hopefully you never do. On if you would be willing to divorce Tom to get Jack back. If I had to, yes. Truthfully, that's kind of been falling apart anyway, and the only reason I haven't divorced him is because I don't want to lose Alyssa. I should never have touched the car. I should have just grounded him, insisted on the apology, and maybe also made him hand over the money. Losing a relationship with a child is a hell of a thing. It is like death. I hate what he did, but there is nothing worth losing a child over. I lost my son for that girl who I don't even know. Exact words were high road, low road, I don't care. Whatever wins. The irony is that now I'm sitting where he was, except worse. I'd do anything for him back. So after all that, you weren't willing to give Jack his $800 back. Where is the disconnect here? If you are really willing to do whatever it takes, then why weren't you willing to do this? And her response? I was so angry. I am still so angry. He was sitting there, smug as can be, with his little girlfriend, my ex, and my ex's best friend there as his lawyer. At that moment, I just couldn't. The whole thing was to humiliate me. They stuck me in a crack den of a hotel, made me trek all over New York, Then they all show up laughing and backslapping, and the lawyer tells me I can't talk to my own son unless I pay him $800. I just don't even know what to do anymore. Dan reversed the polarity on the child support, and I'm now a few months behind on the mortgage, and the hole gets deeper and deeper. I placed my house for sale on the market. I'm just at wit's end. My parents are making me give up my baby for adoption. I'm heartbroken and unsure of what to do next. They've left me with no choice. Plus, new update. I'm 16 years old. I got pregnant by somebody I work with. He's 18 and is about to graduate high school. He's planning to join the military after he graduates. He's not my boyfriend. We were never in a relationship like that. I mean, I wish he was, but he doesn't seem interested in that. We're friends. He flirts with me. I lost my virginity to him. He didn't force me or anything like that. I've had sex with him multiple times. I'm 15 weeks pregnant now. Everyone knows. Well, not everyone, because I'm still hiding it from a lot of people. But he knows, and my parents know. I'm embarrassed by it. I feel like an idiot. Like a joke. Like trash. I just wish I could hide until after the baby's born. I want to never leave my house. My parents are basically forcing me to give the baby up for adoption. I live in a state with heavy abortion restrictions. It's way too late to even get one now. My parents don't believe in abortion either. They told me this is my punishment for getting pregnant, that I deserve to have to deal with being pregnant now. They've decided that I'm giving the baby away and have already set up a meeting with an adoption agency. They say they won't let me ruin my life with a baby, and they aren't going to raise my baby either. So, this is the only other option. My mom keeps saying, "You'll thank us later." I didn't get pregnant on purpose. I don't really want to be a mom right now. I turned 17 over the summer and will only be starting my junior year next year. At the same time, going through pregnancy and giving birth just to give my baby away terrifies me. I don't know if I can live with it. It literally makes me feel like I want to throw up or pass out. I feel like I have no choice but to go along with what my parents want. It's not like I could support myself, let alone me and a baby. I could never just do it on my own. I was too scared to get an abortion earlier on before I told my parents I was pregnant. I was so scared that I'd get in trouble, but now I realize that probably would have been the easiest thing for me. If anyone reading this has given a baby up for adoption and survived it, please let me know what it was like. Do you get over it? Do you really end up feeling like it's the best thing for them and you're able to just live with it? Relevant comments. OP on her parents and raising a baby by herself. I know, and I'm not suggesting that I raise a baby by myself. I know it's not really possible. I would need a lot of help, which is also not possible for me given how my parents feel about it. So at the end of the day, sure, it's my choice, but I'm sort of cornered into only being able to make one choice. OP on the father, and if he knew she's pregnant, he knows I'm pregnant, and he knows my parents are essentially forcing adoption. I think he's relieved that they've decided this and are going to force me into it. I think he feels bad, but at the same time he doesn't want to be a parent, so he says stuff like, "Yeah, that's probably the best thing." OP on if her parents are choosing to take a legal route against the father. I'm in the US. He just turned 18 in April. They don't really want to involve him. I thought they'd confront him in person, demand to speak to his parents and stuff like that. They didn't react like that at all. I mean, they're mad at him and they blame him for this too. But they want to keep him removed from it all probably so nobody will interfere with what they've decided the plan is. IDK. Update: I'm 20 weeks pregnant now and will turn 17 within the next few weeks. My parents are still forcing me to give my baby up for adoption. We've met with an adoption agency. The adoption counselor knows that I don't want to do adoption. She asked to speak with me privately without my parents present to ask me a series of questions. I was honest and told her I didn't want to give my baby away, but I had no other choice. She seems to feel bad about it and told me that I will ultimately have to sign the papers after the baby is born. My parents cannot sign the papers. Unfortunately, without my parents' help, I have no other options. The adoption counselor talked to us about the option of my parents adopting my baby, which I don't really want either. No worries, my parents aren't interested in raising another baby. My parents want me to look at the potential families. I'm trying to look at them. It's so weird thinking that I'm looking at parents for my own baby. I know I'm not ready to be a mom, but it's still so weird. None of this feels like it's happening to me. I've talked to the baby's father. He graduated high school and goes off to basic training later this summer. I think he'd be fine with adoption. He said he doesn't really know what other options we have. We could get married since the military would at least help pay for a place to live and we'd have medical benefits, but I can't get married without parental consent. We don't love each other. What kind of marriage would that be? But it seems like the only realistic solution. I hate the idea of being married at 17 years old and to a person who doesn't genuinely want to be married to me. So then another option which still involves marriage might be for his parents to help out, even take care of the baby and let me see him or her until I'm 18 and don't need my parents' permission to get married. That doesn't really seem fair to them. He could try to object to an adoption, but it's not guaranteed that his wishes would be respected. Plus, then what happens to the baby? His parents seem like good people. I don't know them well, but I've met them. They're worried about what this will do to his future, but they told my parents they believe it should be our decision and that it's their job as parents to help us. My parents basically said it's their job to protect me and that all of the responsibility will fall on me and it'll be my life that's ruined. Our families met to discuss everything, but it was really just parents telling them what was going to happen, and that they and their son had no say. Relevant comments. OP on the ideal adoption situation she would like to see happening to the child. I don't have an ideal adoption situation right now, because I still can't accept adoption. But, probably two gay guys. It's the women in these couples I look at that seem more fake than the men for the most part. Again, I know this sounds terrible to say. Something about a lot of the women is just really rubbing me the wrong way. Maybe two lesbians, because the few lesbian couples I've seen at least seem more genuine than the straight women. Well, in some cases the gay couples could have their own biological children, even if the children didn't share both parents' DNA. But, I'm just more drawn to those couples and the profiles I've seen just seem more genuine. But yes, it feels like nobody is good enough for my baby. I acknowledge that it might not seem rational. If you've never been in the position of having to look at families, all complete strangers, to give your baby to, you probably can't fully understand. I'm allowed to be picky. This could be the biggest, most important decision in my entire life, and this is the only part of the whole adoption thing I actually have much of a say in. I'm only 20 weeks pregnant, not 38. There's no rule stating I have to have a family picked out yet. Some people take longer picking out a new car to buy. It's not as if adoption was a choice I came to on my own and even feel positive about. So yeah, looking at potential adoptive families is going to give me some feelings. As I stated, it's not a matter of thinking I can or cannot provide a better life. It's a totally bizarre and heartbreaking thing to do, to read through the profiles of families to give your baby to. And there are a ton of families. Update: having a boy. I don't know why I'm suddenly getting a ton of responses on my post from a week ago, but I figured I'd post an update because a few things have changed. I had an ultrasound on Friday and found out I'm having a baby boy. He's basically fully formed and just needs to get bigger now. I saw his head and his nose, and they even got a picture of the bottom of his 2 feet together because he was sort of sideways at first and we had to get him to move. It looks sort of like footprints. I could clearly see his little hands and everything. So I already said it in my previous post, but people are still sending my info about abortion. I know those people are trying to help, and I wish I had maybe reached out here when I first found out I was pregnant, since I didn't know I could get pills mailed to my house. I just can't get an abortion now. It's a fully formed baby. I even named him. It won't solve my problem at this point, because my biggest problem with adoption is how I'm going to live with it mentally for the rest of my life. Now that I know it's a baby moving around in there and stuff, I think I would also not mentally be able to handle an abortion now. If it was still just a lump of cells, I'd feel different, but I was too scared to do anything then. After the ultrasound, I sent the baby's father the pics. He wasn't there. My parents don't want him or his family involved now, probably because I told them he offered to marry me and they yelled at me for even considering that. I told him I can't give the baby away and asked if his parents were really serious about helping and if he'd hate me for keeping it. He said he won't hate me. I still think he'll blame me for ruining his life. He already told me he thinks adoption is the best choice. If we got married and he got caught cheating on me, even if I was okay with it, he could get in a lot of trouble. He said, "Why would I cheat on you?" He said he likes me. He wouldn't have sex with me if he didn't like me. He just didn't see the point in us being in a relationship since he was leaving anyway. It was just easier that way. The thing is, I know I'm not the only girl he's been with during that time. I'm not stupid enough to think I'm special to him or he loves me. And we both know it's sort of ridiculous to imagine us being married or acting like adults, but I guess that's what you have to do if you have a baby. I can't really imagine being a wife, but maybe it wouldn't be too bad and I'd get to move away from my parents. He said it's really weird to think about, but I have very few options and he doesn't know what else he's supposed to offer, but he's going to talk to his parents since I'm too shy to. I guess I'm assuming they were just saying it to be nice but are probably happy my parents are making me do the adoption. He says his parents aren't like that. I'm really just an inconvenience to everyone, and if I keep my baby he might end up not liking me too. I don't want to screw up my baby's life. I would do everything I could to be a good mom. I would grow up and learn how to be a wife and mom and an adult. I can't imagine living after giving my baby to somebody else. Also, if you're looking to adopt a baby, please do not message me here. Many people already have and I just delete those messages. It's creepy. If I do put my son up for adoption, it will not be to somebody I met through Reddit. I'm sorry. It's just very creepy to be messaged by adults here who want to adopt my baby. There was a comment full of hard truths left on this update. I feel horrible for you. You're in a terrible position. But your current plan does not make sense, and is not healthy for the baby. You want to marry the father who really doesn't want to be a father, because you'll have access to military housing and benefits. Being a military spouse is incredibly difficult. You will have to go where he goes, which means you will not really have support from his parents, because they will not pack up and follow you every time he is relocated. So no real support from your family or his. It will be difficult for you to build your own career because your jobs will have to be accessible to where he is based out of. He will resent you for pushing for this marriage that you admit is loveless and would be out of convenience. So your plan right now means your baby will grow up with a dad who doesn't want him, a strained and/or distant relationship with grandparents, parents with an unhealthy relationship, and financial hardship. And you will be unable to leave when things inevitably implode in your marriage, because you will not be financially independent, and you will not have any support from your family. My heart breaks for you because you clearly love the little boy already, but it's a really bad idea for everyone involved. At this point it's one of those things where love means doing what's best for him. And what's best for him is being in a stable environment. Edited to add, because I keep seeing you say you aren't sure how it works in the military, I wanted to throw out there that I do, and that I'm not saying all this because I'm just guessing. My dad was in the Army. My long-term ex was in the Army. My best friend is married to a Marine. My other best friend is married to a man in the Army. And my cousin is in the Air Force. Being a military spouse is difficult no matter what branch you are talking about, and no matter how promising the benefits sound. Most people in healthy, loving, long-term relationships struggle with the hurdles that come in military relationships. Two very young people who don't love each other with a baby and financial hardship? I don't see that working. My parents are forcing me to give my baby up for adoption. I'm getting married and moving in with strangers. I'm 24 weeks pregnant now. I just turned 17. My parents have been trying to force me to give my baby boy up for adoption. I've made several posts about it. I don't want to do it. We've met with the adoption agency and looked at families. I don't think I can survive if I do it. I can't imagine my baby being out there or forever being a nuisance to an adoptive family. They said if I keep the baby, I'll be doing it all on my own. They aren't going to help me in any way. The baby's father's family is willing to help me though. The baby's father isn't my boyfriend. I know that probably sounds bad. We were never officially in a relationship, just friends really. But his parents have been a lot nicer throughout this whole thing. I don't know them well, but I'm getting to know them better now. I'm going to have to, since they are willing to help me, us. They aren't really happy that I'm pregnant, but they believe it should have been my decision about what to do about the pregnancy and eventual baby, and that as parents it's their job to help and support that decision. He's joining the military. His dad is retired military, brother is military. It is what he's always wanted to do. He just started basic training. So the plan is that we're going to get married when his family and I go out there for his graduation. Unless he changes his mind between now and then, which he might. I know he might. He hasn't said that, but I'm just scared he will. There wasn't time to do it before he left. Anyway, his tech school is over a year long, so the baby and I could move out there with him if need be. Or I can stay with his family here until he goes to his permanent duty station. That would allow me to graduate high school instead of getting a general educational development. Or at least finish the next year of high school normally. I need notarized approval to take the general educational development. At 17 and my parents refuse, but they've agreed to sign paperwork to allow me to get married. I don't understand them. I don't understand how they'd rather allow me to get married and go live with another family instead of just allowing me and my baby to live at home until I finish school and turned 18. It makes no sense. I'm not even a parent yet and I wouldn't let my 17-year-old get married. If it was between my 17-year-old getting married and moving across the country or supporting her decision to keep her baby and assisting her with finding resources to enable her to parent, I know which option I'd choose as the parent and it wouldn't be marriage. It hurts so bad. They've essentially said if he's going to marry me and his family is going to help us, then I'm not their problem now, so they'll sign off on that. They yelled at me, called me names, and locked me in my room. I could go back to being the daughter they love if I would just go along with their plan, but these things will never be the same between us again. His parents were the ones who convinced them to approve of the marriage. They met with my parents. Actually, we all met together. They've been the only ones advocating for me at all. They want me to finish school. They're going to help me arrange childcare and I'm going to move in with them before the baby is born. I will take my newborn baby home to their house. I don't even know these people. It's strange and uncomfortable for me, but I'm at the point where I can't be picky about what help is offered. Luckily, the baby will be covered by his dad's insurance no matter what, and I will be covered by insurance once we're married. I'm not planning to depend on military benefits to address all our needs. It's just one piece of the puzzle. After I graduate, I plan to get certified for something that has good career prospects and pays well. I'm going to be smart about what field I select, and I will use any opportunity to find grants or scholarships to help pay. My parents want me to go straight to a traditional 4-year college. I'm in honors classes now. I get really good grades. I scored very high on the PSAT. I should go to college, but I'm not really interested in any of the career fields that make college worth it. Financially, in my eyes. Unless I got a huge scholarship, I'd be paying mostly with student loans. So I'm looking into other avenues where I can enter my chosen career field much sooner and start making good money quicker without incurring so much debt. I'm really scared about everything. I've never had to do any adult things. I've blown up my whole life by getting pregnant and not going along with my parents' plan. I don't even feel like I have parents now. I never thought my family would end up this way. I sort of just want to go along with their plan because in many ways it'd be a lot easier. I could go back to my life and still be accepted by my parents and have their love and support again, but my life will never be the same. I think I'd regret taking the easy way out. I don't think adoption would be easy for me at all, but as far as day-to-day life struggles, it'd probably help easier. I think I'd grow up and hate myself for doing it, and I'd never be able to undo it. What I'm doing now is the only option that I don't think I'll spend my whole life regretting. At least it won't make me feel like a coward. I still feel sick to my stomach when I think about everything that's happening. That I'm going to live with virtual strangers. That I'm going to get married. That I will eventually move across the country and be a mom and a wife before I can even legally drink alcohol. Although moving across the country doesn't sound too bad right now. I just don't know what I'm doing. I think I'm probably taking on too much, but it still makes me happier than when I thought I'd have no choice but to sign adoption papers. Relevant comments. Maroon Sweater, 123. Setting aside the fact that this nightmare situation should not exist and a shotgun contract marriage is probably not a great solution, OP won't just have access to healthcare and housing. Spouses have access to some education benefits too. Or they did in 2014. God, I'm old. Geez. Honestly hoping this is a military recruiter troll or a pro-abortion troll because this poor fucking kid. Swim Sweater. She'll have access to some education benefits right away, but there are people who prey on those and scam you out of them for utterly useless certificates. My heart breaks for her because she and her baby daddy are going to be miserable. I don't think she realizes how tough it's going to be financially on top of emotionally. I really hope his family helps her sign up for whatever aid they'll qualify for, like women, infants and children, and use the Army Emergency Relief Car Seat Program to get one for free. Creepy. Snow 8166. Unfortunately, there's no optimal solution for OP. Even if she decided to abort, it's too late for her now. I imagine it would be very difficult to go through pregnancy and birth. Then give your own flesh and blood away to strangers. I can't blame her for not choosing that route, but it also sucks that she will need to sacrifice so much, and be in an unwanted marriage and living arrangement, in order to keep her baby. OP has to choose between two shitty choices. I messaged her about a government program that houses pregnant teens and helps them find housing arrangements and educational job opportunities. But since she's been getting a deluge of messages, she probably skipped over mine. In my humble opinion, something like that would have been a great third choice. Cathouse Chicken. I think the saddest thing about something like this is the type of people to talk her out of an abortion are the same type of people that wouldn't want to allocate funds for helping a young single mother. Our anti-abortion policies, coupled with lack of public funds to help new mothers who don't get abortions, really reiterate the purpose of anti-abortion policy, and that's to create a baby pipeline for adopters.